All right, so I got to see The Running Man. Thank God, because I was afraid I was going to be able to. And I went to the theater and I was like really excited, even though despite mixed reviews and not doing great at the box office, despite it's like what $110 million budget, I found myself really enjoying this movie. It's simple. It's okay. It's not simple. It's different, and technically, it's more accurate than the Schwarzenegger version, right? Watching this movie, I was kind of like, man, Stephen King can't catch a break this year because Long Walk didn't do incredibly at the box office. This movie comes out and it seems to not be doing well, and I guess the idea is slapping Stephen King's name on it doesn't mean it's going to sell. You know what I mean? And not to be trying to compare this to the 87 version, because to be honest, the 87 version isn't even really that accurate to the book. This is technically a more accurate adaptation, and they still folded on it completely because there's aspects in the book that could have been done in the movie, and they play with those aspects from the book, but they don't actually go through with it. And I think that's what ultimately hurts this movie is that it's the fact that they go the route of the book, but they're too scared to deliver it, which is why movie making today is a little bit different from back in the day. Because if something in the book didn't make sense, they change it to make it better, like Carrie. See, in the book with Carrie, it doesn't go down like the last half hour of the movie does. And I think the last half hour of the movie is actually better than the ending of the book. This movie, back to what I'm saying on like that little tangent, is you got Ben Richards is in a dystopian society. He has a sick daughter. He already has a wife, Jamie Lawson. Lord have mercy. And we are going through this aspect that the child is sick. He needs to get the medicine to take care of the child, and these things happen. We come to find out the only way to really get some money is to be exploited by the organization or the net or whatever the name of the organization is. And, Josh Brolin is the head of that. Same thing like Running Man 87, but a little bit different because obviously Schwarzenegger isn't a family guy and he just isn't trying to like fix his daughter as far as I'm concerned. I need to rewatch the 87. No, as a matter of fact, that is not what happens in the original movie. So he's one of three people that gets picked, and we find out there's a designated person who has to get picked so they die early, and there's another person who's going to not really care to win but kind of exploit themselves openly so when they finally get caught. And then there's the person who is destined to make it but doesn't actually make it. So this movie is actually really much like, yeah, there's no pretty much way of getting out of that in The Running Man. All things to say, it looks great. Visually, it's cool. Cinematically, it's cool. Shot wonderfully because that's just what Edgar Wright does. He shoots his movies well. And this movie did feel like an Edgar Wright film with some Edgar Wrightness, but not as much as I would think. And it's just honestly the pace is so fast there really isn't time to breathe, which is what I would assume a game like this would be like. So I think people complaining about the pace, honestly, there were scenes where I felt like I was kind of in this joint like, damn, what do I do next? How would I survive? What would I do? I was thinking while he was thinking. like like that's just me though. The futuristic dystopian look looks so real. I don't know if they built sets and had some blue screen behind it or what. I don't know what they did, but it worked. It looked great. It looked so real. Like a lot of the action was cool. I mean, I really like Glen Powell as a choice, but I still don't think he was a good choice because the same problem people had with the Running Man movie in 87 would be my same problem today is the fact that Ben Richards in the book is not a muscular dude. He's kind of a dork. You see what I'm saying? So watching The Running Man, I was like, honestly, I think Michael Cera and Glenn Powell should have switched roles because I think Michael Cera would have been more believable as a dork that uses his brain to get out. But in this movie, it was more like he has a foul temper. He can beat people's asses. He's definitely more of a revolutionary, which I don't think was supposed to be the case in the book. So I was like, why still go this route if you're saying it's an accurate adaptation, just to go a different route with Ben Richards again, instead of giving us actual Ben Richards from the book? And all in all, I think this like the action's fun. It's a fun movie. It's okay, like it's interesting. Certain set pieces where I was like, man, that looks great. Certain action scenes where I was like, that was cool. It wasn't like mind blowing, but I enjoyed the film. I mean, like I said, Glen Powell's fun to watch. Josh Brolin is Josh Brolin. Like he's in two or three Jones a year, every year at this point. Jamie Lawson's clearly on an upswing with her career after Sinners and now this, and she would be a good storm. Just throwing that out there. So we got the movie. It just kind of goes, and this is where I kind of need to be spoilery for this because I don't really like doing spoilers, but like this is where it differs from the book because it technically goes a more accurate route from the book. The whole plane sequence is in the book, and the whole point of that sequence was he flips out because you find out that Josh Brolin and them killed his family, which actually does happen in the book. His kid dies from the illness, and they kill his wife, and he goes crazy and crashes the plane into the building, which they allude to as like a media takeover kind of thing to kind of like edit it to make it seem like he's crazy. But then there's that little glimmer of hope at the end. The family doesn't actually get killed, but the plane also doesn't crash because it gets blown up before it hits the building. Glenn Powell escaped through some kind of escape pod that was built into the ship, and then that's it. And then it's like, okay, well, now what happens? Is he dead? Is he not dead? We don't know. But then we see him at the end. We see that he starts some kind of uprising. So the movie pretty much ends on this big revolutionary tale that will empower you to take over from the oppressors. Even though in the book, Ben Richards crashes a plane into the building and kills everybody as an act of rage, which that scene was so good to watch in the movie until you see that they copped out because Glenn Powell's performance when he assumed they killed his family is glorious. It's glorious, and I'm kind of tired of like the afraid. Like if this movie was made accurately in the '80s, his family would have died. Not saying I want them to, but that would have happened in the '80s. That would have happened in the '90s. Hell, it might have even happened in the 2000s. But after like the 2010s, man, movie telling kind of got a little scary, bro. Movie telling got a little scared to be like there with the story. You know what I'm saying? And that's just unfortunate because the movie was right there at some points. It just, I don't know. I feel like this movie, maybe Edgar Wright wasn't the right choice for something like this because it still feels like an Edgar Wright movie to some degree. Like, I think something like this should have been like, sounds goofy, but I was gonna say like Matt Shackman or somebody who's really good at the aesthetic, but would also probably keep the story going. I just think Edgar Wright has too much of his own style for something like this, but I'm glad he attempted to do something like this. Yeah. The book is a lot bleaker and darker. How the 80s movie has a little bit more of a darker tone, but it still kind of has that 80s campy action, and Schwarzenegger is obviously no one's favorite actor. But there was still something there that kind of made you feel like there was nothing able to be done. This movie really latched on to there was nothing to be done until something was done. So it's like, all right, I kind of see it. So like I said, I still think the movie's solid. I think Glenn, like I said, the movie goes, it starts, it goes, it's there. I don't think it's one of my favorite movies this year, but I did still kind of like it, even if it doesn't sound like I did. Like I said, I enjoyed a lot of the film. It's just a fun sit down, turn your head off, but also keep your brain on for certain parts. Eat something while watching it. Go home knowing you watched the movie. So with that being said, it was good to see y'all. Let me know how I feel about the Running Man down below. If you have anything else, let me know. I'm also open to that conversation too. Comment, subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.